Hi everyone, are you ready to learn how natural selection and genetic drift cause evolution in populations? If these terms seem like gibberish to you right now, have no fear because you will know them by the end of this video very well. So let's get into it. To start this conversation, we will define some important terms. First, let us make sure we have a good understanding of what a population is. Here in genetics, we define a population as a finite interbreeding group that is geographically located together. A population is the basic evolutionary unit, meaning that individuals do not undergo evolution themselves, but rather the entire population does over time. Next, we will define evolution. Evolution within populations refers to the changes in allele frequencies of the collective reproducing individuals over time. So after knowing these terms, we can now discuss natural selection. Natural selection is the survival and reproduction of members of a population that possess favored traits. Natural selection can produce 4 types of results in allelic trends, but throughout each of them continues to abide by the rule that the alleles most fit for the environment will be selected for and persist over time. Meanwhile, genetic drift is the changes in allelic frequency, but due to random chance, which is rather than selection driven. Therefore, we can differentiate between the two of natural selection and genetic drift. Genetic drift does not account for a specific fitness, so an allele that may not be most desirable may become more prevalent in a population, which clarifies this difference between drift and selection. Now that we have a good understanding of these 4 key terms of the topic, let's break down the relationship between genetic drift, natural selection, and evolution in populations. First, to understand genetic drift's specific role in population evolution, we must analyze the founder effect and the bottleneck effect. The founder effect is when a new population is established by a few individuals, usually in a new geographic location. It is important to remember that the population size is small, so genetic drift towards the founding individual's alleles will ultimately have the most influence in the population's evolutionary future for the following generations. The bottleneck effect is when a population size is drastically reduced due to a random event. The remaining alleles from this event may have different prevalences in comparison to the group prior, since the individuals were randomly removed and could potentially remove alleles altogether. So in conclusion, genetic drift can alter the evolutionary path of populations as it acts randomly on populations and allele frequencies with no regards to fitness or optimal alleles within a population. On the other hand, natural selection implements intentional evolutionary measures within a population. The key 4 types of selections include stabilizing selection, which diminishes allele diversity, bringing the population closer to the optimal allele, reducing the presence of the extremity alleles. Second is directional selection, which is a movement towards a new and most optimal allele. Thirdly is disruptive selection, the splitting of a population frequency that once favored a central trait into a population where 2 different alleles are optimal. And lastly, there is balancing selection, which will continue to support multiple alleles within the population at an equilibrium. Here, it is clear how natural selection can affect the way that which generations in a population are reproduced, and explain the allele frequency patterns we observe in populations. So, in conclusion, genetic drift and natural selection both work in differing ways to drive evolution in populations, but together that help elucidate the complexities of allelic frequencies in populations. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that I've helped you understand natural selection, genetic drift, and ultimately evolution in populations.